My God, this lighting. This lighting, though. Hi, everybody. It's Lisa Concepcion, Love Life Transformation Coach and founder of LoveQuestCoaching.com. And I wanted this week to elaborate on an article that I was quoted in the New York Post last week on the 22nd of February about couples who schedule sex. So, as you can imagine, when you're interviewed for media interviews, right? Oftentimes you spend a lot of time talking to these people and they call you back and all this. And, oh, cool. Thank you. Good. I'm glad you can see. Hello, Moret. Thank you for joining. I'm talking about couples not having enough sex and why and what they can do about it. So this is actually elaborating on this article that I was featured in the New York Post last week. And it was really cool. It was well done. But, you know, as you can imagine, people in the, the writers don't have enough room to really get to the, the whole issue, the whole deal, right? So I figured I would come on a Facebook Live and I would talk to the couples out there who might struggle or feel as if they're not having enough sex in their life. They're too busy. There's too many things going on. Too much hustle and bustle. And the thing that falls to the side is the sex life. And so, so here's the New York Post that I was in. And the article was the cover of the Body and Soul section. See? And it's all about, couples who need to get their sex life on point. And then here is me. Hello. And they went with like this picture of me. I had my glasses on. Like we did a bunch of different pictures. They sent a photographer. It was really fun. We have really cool pictures of me, like, on the FaceTime thing with a client, and just really kind of capturing what it is that I do for people. So anyway, here it is, New York Post. Now the whole gist of this article was about, between basically, I'll read you not the whole thing, but I'll read you the whole beginning and the headline. So it's called Getting Busy. Between climbing the corporate ladder and caring for kids, couples are finding little time or energy for sex. But experts say, of which I was one, that scheduling regular appointments can be a turn on to help a relationship. So I definitely am all for scheduling sex. And I will tell you why. And before we get into that, though, there are certain things that you need to know that didn't really go into that deeply enough in the article. The article was amazing, but granted, it's a page and a half. There's only so much you can do with a page and a half. So to that end, I wanted to get the topic out there about couples scheduling sex and how this is a good thing to do. And before we can get to that, though, we have to dial it back and we have to always get to the why, right? So if you're a couple, whether you're married or in a committed long-term relationship, you fall into this phase, or not even a phase, it's like a new normal of just the grind of your life, right? So like real life sets in. You're not in that early stage of the relationship where you're basically chasing each other around and you can't get enough, and it's just like you're up late, you have this like physiological adrenaline rush that for some reason enables you to wake up at 3 a.m, roll over, have your significant other next to you, and then just like hit it. And then you're half asleep and you're having like half asleep sex and it's great. And then you fall back asleep and the alarm goes off at 7:30 in the morning and you're like, okay, whatever, I can go to work, I can get ready, I can hang out, this is awesome. And you could ready to go again that night. So there's something that happens physiologically to us when we're in that mode that early stage of a relationship where there's like all this desire and all this like, I can't get enough of you, right? And then as time goes on, you settle into this comforting, evolved place in the relationship where you feel more secure with one another, and that like insatiable feeling of like, I can't get enough kind of dissipates a little bit, and it's normal. And it's nice in a way because that means that the relationship is progressing to its next phase. So there are different seasons to a relationship. And a lot of people leave once they are out of that initial stage. They like the hookup, they like the chase, they like that initial newness. But then when it starts getting real and getting heavy and getting more like, intimate, they bounce. Now, for those who don't bounce and they continue forward and they build a relationship and they go through knowing more about one another, introductions to families, things like that, really integrating into one another's lives in a very meaningful way. Oftentimes, when lives become merged, they become more complicated and busy, and there's more to do between careers and between friendships and social activities and just life. What ends up happening is sex goes out the window. And what's interesting here is people, just because you don't have children, that it automatically means that you're just like running a nudist colony out of your house, chasing each other around and bending each other on the table, just like it's a free-for-all just because you don't have kids. And that's not necessarily the case at all. Don't be fooled. Just because people don't have children doesn't necessarily mean that they are managing their time effectively and or are really communicating in the relationship in a manner that is conducive to an amazing, open, beautiful, sexy, delicious, yummy sex life. So that's the piece that I wanted to make sure that they included in this article, but they did not. And so I wanted to mention it here. So the big deal is getting to the root of the reason for why there's a lag in the sex. Now, some people point to children, some people point to busy careers, some people point to like logistical stuff, like there might be like, I know a couple that like they blamed it on the puppy. They got this puppy and the puppy was like always whimpering at night and waking them up, and then they had to like house train the puppy and the puppy and the puppy, and it ended up being like a year where the puppy was completely fine and like they're still not having sex. It was weird. So whenever there's like a weirdness thing like that, I love to encourage people to dive a little deeper and ask the harder question. Ask, am I attracted to this person still? Do I find them physically attractive still? And if you do, next question. How are we communicating when we have clothes on? Are we, connected? Are we just going through the motions of life and talking about just to-do lists and minutia or not even talking at all, just coexisting in the same living space, but there really isn't any kind of meaningful conversation going back and forth, that you don't really feel super connected to the person. And then when you're thinking about having sex, it's like, I don't even really know who this person is. Like, I know this person for so long and I know things about them, but like, what are their hopes and dreams? What are they going for? What are their standards about certain things? And how are we communicating with one another? Is it with kindness and respect? And are we having just fun? Is that what this is? Are we just friends who just so happen to like live together? So these are very important probing questions that eventually couples have to ask, especially when the sex is falling away. When it's like, dude, we used to have sex like 3 times a week, 4 times a week. we'd have like sex marathons. We'd stay in bed all day on a Sunday and just like order food and have sex. And like that's awesome to do. And every now and then you absolutely need that kind of, reconnection. And it's incredibly important that you bond with one another in that way. And it's a beautiful thing to do. But what needs to happen is the reality that life happens and it's incredibly busy and people have all these things to do. And you wake up on Monday and you get ready for work and you go to work and you might even have a commute to work. And then you come home and you make dinner and you're exhausted and you just want to chill and crash on the couch and you find yourself nodding out at 9 o'clock on the sofa. That was me. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even muster up the energy for like, oh, it was terrible. It was just this grind of a life. And then you have like, 2 weeks vacation and you pay bills and you wait to die. It's just ridiculous. And I refer to that as the grind or the hamster wheel existence. And when you are so preoccupied with like autopilot to do, it's, oh my gosh, it's incredible because you're just like, where's my time going? What am I doing with myself? So with many couples, I always say to them, if you can sit there and say, I love my person, I love them, I'm attracted to them, I definitely want to have sex. It's not that I don't want to have sex. I absolutely want to have sex. I'm just really tired. I just feel like I don't have the time for it. You're not dealing with a couple in distress. This is not that. As long as the communication is on point and you feel a strong sense of connection, it's salvageable. You don't have a marriage issue. You don't have a couple issue. This is not a bad thing. This is simply a time management issue. And it is solvable. It is totally solvable. So basically, I had this couple that I mentioned in this article, and they were in their early 50s, and they had three boys, 14, 12, and 10. And what happened was the dad he was a general contractor, and he started to now go into house flipping and renovation for profit, like to turn houses. And he had partners, and then the wife wanted to get involved, but she was in banking and she worked in Manhattan. So they lived in Brooklyn. So his business started to grow, and the boys were old enough where, they can handle themselves when they come home from school on their own and whatever, but they wanted the wife to get more involved in the business. And they thought that with her help, they could even blow it up more. They needed somebody who was amazing with administration and whatever. So she was that. So she decides, okay, I'm going to quit my job in New York and instead focus my attention on my boys and also managing the household and this business. Like everything's going to be this well-oiled machine. And it was. And they were doing great. They were killing it in their business. But what was changing for them was their sex life. And it was like, it was something that kind of built up over the span of about a year or two, where they would like have sex and then not for a while. And then they would be like all in on a project, and they would be like celebrating the big win of the project. But then like, they would be like, oh my God, we haven't had sex in like a month. Like, what is that? And they loved each other, and they were very much, attracted to each other. They had these three beautiful boys. Like, everything was cool. It's just they couldn't get it together with sex. So once we went through that, checklist of how are you communicating together, and you see how people interact, you see their energy, and they genuinely like each other, like they were friends, and you can tell they had like a playfulness to each other that, the way she would look at him, it was like she still, you could tell, like thought he was hot, and he, same with her, he thought she was beautiful and funny and sexy and all that. It just was a time management issue. Now, if it wasn't a time management issue and if it was a communication issue and they were bickering and fighting and they kind of started with that and that's where they nipped it in the bud. But if you're watching this and you're like, yeah, my husband does not look at me with like sexy lust in his eyes. He looks at me like I'm the mother of his kids and like, let's just chill out and watch TV. And you're basically counting the days until those kids turn 18, 20, whatever, so that you can then file papers. That is a ridiculous existence. You owe yourselves far more than that. And these are the things that I help people with. And I experienced divorce. I experienced separation, the dissolving of such a tight friendship and a tight bond. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely devastating. The entire family, it like disrupts everything. So that said, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. Personally, like I'm on this mission to help couples who think that they are like too far gone to save anything or reconnect, to do exactly that, to just reassess, dial it back, look at themselves as individuals, really get real on what's going on, and then together create some new agreements and create a new path that they both can walk down together. And that may include scheduling sex and slowly getting to reconnect again. Like you can't go from like no sex for a month to like banging every day and like sex in the shower and, kinky shit, like whatever you're into. You have to like learn how to communicate about what it is that you want and what it is that you like. And you have to learn how to create a safe, no judgment, open, loving, fair, respectful environment so that you each can be free to say whatever. And one of the things that I've experienced was this closed, very like I wouldn't even talk about certain things. Like, no, that's ridiculous. And just ruling things out without giving anything a fair shot. And that was rooted in control. It was rooted in beliefs about who I thought I was supposed to be based on the opinions of other people, family, parents, society. And I didn't really know who I was. So now I know who I am. I know exactly who I am. But that takes inner searching. That takes, getting away from those messages and those people and those opinions and just really getting into who you truly are, what you truly want, what feels good, and having a partner who isn't judgmental about that, but instead is encouraging and no judgment. Like, dude, you want to tell me to like, whatever thing. Not going to get graphic, but whatever thing, right? And you have this thing in your head. Maybe you saw it on, the computer or porn or whatever. And you're curious, right? So you want to be able to like come to your partner and openly with love be like, listen, I saw this thing and I don't know, I kind of want to do it with you. Better that, right? So when there's a lot of commitment to each other and you want to see the other person thriving and happy, a healthy sex life is part of that. It's a huge part of that. So to get to the healthy sex life, you have to have a healthy manner of communication. You can't have one person going along and going through the motions and making the other person happy at their own expense. And you can't, on the flip side, have somebody taking, and not giving and not looking to grow together and plan. And, all that stuff makes a relationship really sexy. Like I always say, you got to have stuff happening with your clothes on that makes it hot and interesting when the clothes come off, right? You can't just be like watching TV in this boring, mundane life of this existence where you wake up, go to work, come home, cook, crash on the couch. Like that's not enough.
What are you reading? What are you doing together? What are you building together? What are you doing for yourself? If you have a commute, like, listen to some podcasts, get around some good, books, like audio books, like nourish your mind this way. When you come to the dinner table that night, it's not the same bullshit conversation or silence. There's something to talk about. Babe, I'm reading this book. My God, it's blowing my mind. I'm listening to it today. We should listen to it together. When you have a couple and they're together and they're dynamic and they're going for things, right? And I don't mean like material shit. I mean like that's part of it and there's nothing wrong with that. But that's the reward for the greater effort, I've come to learn, right? So like when you have a couple and they're all wrapped up in the stuff, their eye is on the wrong thing. Like their purpose is off. And the purpose is everything. When you're bonded over a common purpose, oh my God, the sex is completely hot. Like then it's like you're a team, you're on it, and that's the piece that I wanted to get clear with people. There are people out there who, like I said, they have it on point, everything's cool with each other, but they just need time management. That's an easy thing to handle. That's simple. Like I can coach literally 2 or 3 sessions on the time management and that's handled. Literally. Like it's looking at your day-to-day, how you're living your life individually and how you're living it as a couple. And then we just look at the same 24 hours that Oprah Winfrey has, right? Oprah has the same 24 hours in a day that you have. Same thing. And trust me, she's banging Stedman. She is. I don't know how often. I would venture to guess more than once a week, twice a week, probably. She's got stuff. Busy lady, lots of things, lots of demand on Oprah. But I pretty much would like to say Stedman's been in her jam for 35 years. They've been together, so I think the sex is on point. Anyway, no different than us, right? So it's a matter of looking at the hours in our day, what we are doing with those hours, how we are putting things that are priority and controlling things and trying to manipulate things that really don't need such effort and time. And so, oh, Jeremy Kruger, thank you. That's so sweet. I love you back. Thank you. I'm glad that, you're getting value from this. Appreciate you too, Andre. Thanks for checking me out. And if any of this is, ringing bells for you and you think like, you have a sister or cousin or somebody that you're like, damn, that's like describing her or him, feel free to share my content and encourage people to like my page. And if they have questions or anything, they can hit me up at lisa@lisaconcepcion.com, or you can DM me right here on the Love Quest page. And I'll always into getting in touch with people relatively quickly. And so any questions you have. But this was a hot topic. I mean, it was hot enough to get me into the New York Post. Hello. So studious with my glasses, looking like such an expert. And the headline was really funny. It's 6 o'clock. So it's 6 o'clock somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I was really psyched because this was like my hometown paper. When I worked in New York City, back in 2000 to let's see, it was 1995 until 2000. And then I worked in New Jersey for a while. And then I went back into New York in 2005 and I stayed there until 2009. So I would always get the Post, the Daily News, New York Times, and I would go through. And so it's cool when I'm, featured in a paper where my parents can see me and other people in my family and my former coworkers. And it was really cool. Like other people, oh my God, I saw you in the Post. That's awesome. So, important though, because like I said, these newspapers and media outlets, they touch on a topic and it's very important that, we have this platform to elaborate further, so if you're a couple and your sex life is, a little out of whack, maybe you are new parents and, the baby is keeping you up late and you're exhausted. And, there are certainly things that you can do to have it be alone time. So getting back to that couple that I coached, they were able to restructure their time frame, how they allocated time, and they had to put new policies in place in their household. Again, they had children who were 14, 12, and 10. And I suggested trying a house, like shut it down 9:30, mom and dad in the bedroom, right? And the kids can still be awake. They had an 11 o'clock, lights out bedtime. But from 9:30 till 11, they could be awake. They just have to be not around mom and dad. Mom and dad's master bedroom door shut. And they ended up bonding more as brothers. The older brother kind of took the lead, and everybody's homework would be done by 9:30, or 10, and the older brother would invite the other little guys into their room, and they'd watch TV, hang out, play video games, and they were together. And the father, Mario, was hilarious. He's like, no, those kids know, like, do not knock on my door unless someone is bleeding from the eye. Like, I don't want to know it. I'm in here with your mother, and that's it. We're done with you until tomorrow. And it worked out great. It gave Mario and Janine more time together, like quality time, having bigger conversations, talking about just themselves and the life that they wanted and that they envisioned for them and their boys. They had a policy of like no talking business in the bedroom. The bedroom was a sacred space for sex and for bonding as a couple. And any business communication was handled during business hours. They made a lot of different, not necessarily rules, but boundaries. They established some really good, healthy boundaries in their household, and it ended up really helping everybody to thrive in their own way. The kids felt better. The kids actually liked seeing that the mom and the dad were going into their room at 9:30 every night because they felt secure that their parents genuinely loved each other and wanted to be alone with one another. So it sends a really good message to the kids when, parents take time alone for themselves. Another couple idea that I had for another couple in the Midwest that I coached was to get around the friends of the kids, the parents of the friends, right? So their kids are in school, they all have friends. And my idea was to make friends with the friends of the kids. And then round robin take turns when trust was established, of course, of letting the kids stay over on the weekends. So like every week, each parent took turns and they'd have these sleepovers with the kids, and they were, of course, supervised and whatever. It was super fun. Like girls were in one room, boys were in another, and then they'd all have like the den and they'd hang out and watch movies. And these are, little kids. They're like, 7 to 10. They were all in that range. And then the older ones would go off to the cousins. Just having family and having friends take turns where they each take the kids and they make it a fun night so that each parent can just have like a weekend with nothing, no kids, no nothing. That was something that worked out well for these couples. They were I want to say they were like a suburb out of Chicago. So anyway, there are things that you can do. You just have to be super creative and resourceful and just really understand that you can't do it alone. There's a reason why hundreds and thousands of years ago, there was like, villages of people. And like while the men went out and hunted, all the women hung out and gathered and like picked berries and veggies and like watched the kids. And everybody looked out for everybody's kids. And now things became very siloed and very separate. And so we often find that we're caught up in trying to do everything ourselves. Meanwhile, you may have a sister or a brother a town or two away that you can call up and be like, listen, dude, can you take my kids for a couple of days? And they'd be like, dude, we would love to. Like, we'll totally take them to like, whatever, some fun museum exhibit, or you always have like the cool aunt who's like, give me the kids for an afternoon. I'll totally take them off your hands. And they want to do that. But if you don't ask, they'll presume that you don't roll that way. And then that time that you give those kids with their other relatives can free you up for quality time with your significant other, spouse, etc. So that's kind of it. I hope these tips help you out. I definitely know that, it's very important to have a healthy sex life, and it's good for, my gosh, your overall health. There are plenty of studies out there. If you Google healthy sex life and aging, there's a reason why I got this glow, honey. 47 in 2 weeks. Hit me up if you want to buy me a gift. Love language, gifts. But I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You watching me is a gift. You giving me a shout out on here is a gift. And all the notes that I get on YouTube, if you're checking this out on YouTube. Wow, love you guys. Love my YouTube family. They're awesome. All over the world, shouting me out. It's so fun. And all the people that write me to my inbox, Lisa at Lisa Concepcion. If you have anybody that you know, or you watching this and this resonated with you, I coach couples together and couples as individuals, and together we mix it up, we make it happen. I'm here to serve, darling. So get your freak on. It's what do we got? It's 10:30. It's time to get your freak on. So if you're a couple right now and your kids are asleep, I give you permission to tap that ass. Get in there. All right. Have a great night, everybody. And if you want to learn more about me and the work I do, you can find me at lisaconcepcion.com. That's lisaconcepcion.com. Have a great night, everybody. Love it up. Bye.